Unknown to Mike, after the first time we met, I knew I wanted to be a part of his team, and I'm very proud now that after a 5-year interviewing process, I finally convinced him to give me a chance. Mike came to Bowling Green from upstate New York on a hockey and lacrosse scholarship and was a 2-time captain and 3-time All-American on BG's nationally ranked lacrosse team. He served as a student trustee and founded the Student Recreation Center during his time on campus. In 1998, State of Ohio Governor Bob Taft approved Mike to be BGSU's Board of Trustees, where he served for 10 years. In 2009, Mike was honored by BGSU by being selected to the Dallas Hamilton Entrepreneurial Hall of Fame, just one of the 7 business and athletic Hall of Fames he's been inducted into. In 2010, Mike was honored as one of the university's top 100 alums in its 100 years of history, and in 2013, received Bowling Green's Distinguished Alumni Award. He's served on many boards, including chairing the U.S. Lacrosse Foundation, the Culver Academy's Prep School, the Lou Holtz Hall of Fame, and is a current trustee of the Fiesta Bowl. In 1982, Mike founded Wilcox Financial, a company serving over 2,500 family businesses, corporate executives, and high net worth individuals in 39 states and 12 countries by providing high-grade financial advice. In 2000, he reinvented himself and formed Wilcox Sports Management, a branch of the firm that represents over 350 football and basketball coaches, athletic directors, university presidents, conference commissioners, and broadcasters all over the country in areas of finance, compensation, and contract negotiation. Despite having clients throughout the country and the globe, Mike's made it clear that our corporate headquarters are going to be in Toledo, Ohio, and that we're proud to call this place home. Please give a big, epic welcome to my mentor, my boss, and most importantly, my great friend, as he shares with us from surviving to thriving time in challenging times. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Wilcox.
Thank you. Thank you. Boy, I think he wants a raise now, right? Just like I wrote it, right? So, good morning, Epic, and all you young leaders at Toledo. Thanks for having me. Congrats to Epic on all that you do in Toledo. Your leadership, your enthusiasm is infectious, and we need it. Toledo's on the move, and you're definitely leading from the front rather than the rear. So, my congratulations to all of you, and I hope you keep up this enthusiasm. You know, as an Epic and in life, it's all about the L word, leadership. And I talk about leadership a lot. It's very, very important. Without it, you can only survive. You'll never thrive. With it, you'll thrive and truly live a life of meaning. And I think that's just what I've tried to live my life in our firm and adding value to other people's lives, our customers. And speaking of leadership, are there any college football fans in the audience? Anybody out there? So, sorry about the Rockets last night. They'll be back. I think the season's 2 biggest stories that we've seen so far have been with 2 of our clients and very good friends. And first, Brian Kelly at Notre Dame. Brian had a 4-8 season last year. He didn't sit and whine about it or cry about it. He fired 7 assistant coaches, 2 of which were in his wedding, 4 of which were his best friends, and he's still married. Okay. But what a story that's been, and what a story of leadership, courage, and the ability to make change in life when things were dark. And I think my favorite is our own Matt Campbell. How about Matt at Iowa State? Go Cyclones, right? So Matt's been incredible, and when he had such great success at Toledo, everyone said as he moved toward the MAC championship, then got beat by Western, and everyone said, Iowa State, who in the heck would want to? That's a bad job. Well, you know, there are no good jobs open. There are only bad jobs. It's up to you and your leadership to make bad jobs good jobs. So those 2 have been a game changer this year, and it's been fun to watch and follow them. And the biggest story of leadership here in Toledo has got to be Randy Ostra and ProMedica. How about a big hand for them and what they've done here? I think in my time in Toledo, I've seen 4 or 5 renditions of this structure, but boy, are we lucky to have a high 4-star hotel in town and to come together in it today. So I would suggest that everyone in this room send Randy Ostra a Christmas card and thank him for his leadership in Pro Medicas, because without it, this would just be the same old, same old. And so we're very proud of Randy and his leadership. So congratulations, Epic, for all that you do. You're making a difference in people's lives, and at the end of that, that's what really counts. Now, thank you, Christian, for that kind introduction. My mother always told me if you're fortunate enough to get in front of an audience, you have to remember 3 things: be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. Unfortunately, I can only promise 2, so you'll have to figure it out. Because I've got to be in Florida this afternoon. We've got a football game down there this weekend. So I hope it won't be a disappointment here. It's great to be with you. I think I skipped a page here. Get that right? Yeah. Pardon me. I spend a lot of time speaking, as you'll soon be painfully apparent to you. And this morning, my wife, Jan, said, because we're leaving town this afternoon, she said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm going down to the new hotel, the Renaissance, to speak to the Epic group for Christian." And she said, "Well, how much are they paying you?" And I said, "Well, they're paying me nothing, honey." And she said, "Well, what are you going to give them?" I said, "I'm going to give them the nothing talk." So I hope that won't be the case, but maybe we'll get a pay raise next time. But my only purpose today is to spend a few minutes and share some ideas, a little bit about what I've been through. Maybe you can prevent yourself from going through some of the hardships that I went through along the way, to possibly help you move your needle from surviving to thriving. Because I can assure you it's a lot more fun when you're thriving in challenging times. Let me ask, how many of you out in the room are totally happy, satisfied, fulfilled with where you're at in your career and life? How many of you are totally, I got one? Maybe you ought to take the podium right now. I'll quit, right? So, how many of you on the other side of that would like to grow, would like to become happier, would like to make more money, would like to improve the quality of your life and the people that you touch every day, and add value to people's life and move from surviving to thriving? How many are interested in that? We have a quorum, so let us begin. So, I'd like to focus on thriving, because that's the exciting part. Growth, satisfaction, fun, moving from that survival mode, and really how to achieve in life. And how did I do that? And all I can share with you that I've been there. I've done that. I've experimented. I continue to experiment, to grow, to change, to reinvent, all those things. But every day that I get up, I try to grow and get better at what I do. And to me, that's exciting. And it's also invigorating, because I don't need to set an alarm clock. I'm anxious to get up, to get going. And I promise you, all of you in this room, if you step up, if you leave your comfort zone, if you stick your feet in unfamiliar and sometimes cold water, and take in that different pond, you'll never regret it. And you can do it if you try it. As Christian said, I came to Toledo from upstate New York, came to college, turned down 20 plus corporate offers, IBM, Xerox, Owens Corning, a lot of great companies, Owens, Illinois, because I just wanted to do something different, I had no financial security, I had no parental backup, and 40 plus years ago, my dream was to give it a try to be an entrepreneur, to try to be my own boss, to try to do something different that people hadn't done before. But when I came to Toledo, I had 4 distinct problems. Number 1, I'd never been here before. Number 2, I didn't know anyone. Number 3, I didn't know anything. And number 4, I didn't have any money, backup, or anything else. So other than that, it was easy. It was a really easy transition. And 40 plus years later, my kids say, "So Dad, what's changed?" Nothing's new, right? So, but Toledo has been great to me, our family, our company. And as Christian said, that's where we're going to be. I came to Toledo, and I was so successful that I had to delay our wedding for several months, or several years, actually. And fortunately, my wife Jan understood that. I got through that, and next year we'll celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary. And ladies and gentlemen, I cannot overemphasize the importance of picking your life partner, because he or she is your life partner, she's your business partner, she or he is your parental partner, and it's not always easy. But I got to tell you, I outkicked my coverage in the marriage department, and I thank God every day for that, because we're having more fun 40 years later and doing neat things, developing younger people like Christian, Pete Winovich, one of ours is here, and any success in business, and I've seen it all in 40 years. I can see guys or gals that are highly successful in business, but any success in business, even huge success, will not compensate for failure at home. It just won't. And I came from a divorced family, so I get that. So, if I can give you one piece of advice, is that big decision on your life partner, get that one right, okay? You can get a mulligan on others, okay, but get that one right, because that's just absolutely critical at that point. And if you have to wait a while, then that's fine. My first 3 months in Toledo, I came in as a big impact on Toledo. No money, didn't know anything, hadn't been any. My first 3 months in Toledo, I slept on a friend's screened-in porch. Okay, fortunately, it had running water, and he would let me borrow the bathroom in the morning and the evening. I slept on the porch, and I was able to amass a little money and sublet an apartment from a friend of mine who'd come up here from Bowling Green. But I had no furniture in my one bedroom of the sublet of the apartment. And I can remember on Saturdays when I was working and trying to grow a financial services practice, that they would all be at our apartment, and I'd come back at the Saturday afternoon, there'd be beer cans all over, and my door would be open. Well, I shut that door when I left at 8 o'clock in the morning, but the door would be open, and then I'd see these guys later in the night, and they'd kid me about the big, successful financial services entrepreneur, that I had. I didn't even have a bed. I had a sheet over the window. I had a pile of socks, pile of this, pile of that, a couple of suits and a sport coat. But that was my beginning in Toledo. Slept on a foam mat. And what an auspicious start. What a success. But, it got better over time. And over time, the financial services business from when I got into it changed. It changed drastically. And you had to change with it. I had to change with it if I was going to be successful. Back in those days, there was no financial planning, okay? Back in those days, there was no wealth management. Back in those days, mutual funds had just been invented. I mean, you guys are all, I got neckties older than most of you. They're coming back, too. But, bankers sold money. Accountants did tax returns. Insurance people sold insurance. No financial planning. Little or no collaboration between the enterprises. Vertical silos there. Lawyers did wills and trusts. And, I said, what if there was a way we could create a process to tie all these disciplines together? What if there's a way, I'm not Al Gore, I didn't invent financial planning, right? So what if there was a way you could add service and value that was much more than a product? It was a process that would then determine the products that need to be funded within the portfolio. And, my employer at the time laughed at me and said what a dumb idea that was, and I probably agreed with him after I tried it for a while. But we kept going, and it was just apparent that we were onto something of a process that eventually turned into financial planning, wealth management, and it's been a great run. I've seen so much. I've seen so many things happen, and so after a while, my very, very slow start in a strange town got better, and we did it over time. But the point is, I chose to thrive rather than survive. I could have stayed at my previous firm, excellent firm, nice people, but I chose to thrive, and that was the difference in the jump start that Toledo gave me. I always said on my first 100 sales calls, the first 10 said no, and the next 90 said hell no. And I think I was over 100 in my first 6 months in Toledo. but it got better. And for those of you in the personal services business, bankers, accountants, insurance, financial planners, I formed what I call it's not what you think, okay? Sarah says I got to be clean from the podium, but I formed my SOB list, okay? It stands for son of boss. Today, the DOB list, daughter of boss, female entrepreneurs, female businessmen, dwarfs that list. And our people, that's what they do, help these family businesses throughout Toledo, throughout the region, throughout the state, throughout the world, throughout the country, throughout the world. So, but that really, we all came together. We all came together because we were all poor. We all came together, we were working hard to try to establish ourselves. And that environment in Toledo really hasn't changed. I think you people are making it better and helping each other get better each and every day. But again, I chose to thrive rather than survive. We got some momentum. As Christian said, we turned the business from a local business into a regional to a national and now an international company. I got outside my comfort zone. There were a lot of Fridays, which payroll was due, that I had to sweat it a little bit, but that's what being an entrepreneur is all about. And it's just been a great run, and we experimented. We moved into different markets. We changed. We vetted. We looked at different ways to do things. We retooled. We reinvested. Reinvesting back in your business, that will make you thrive. You can't stay the same. You've got to thrive. And as Christian said, I was appointed to the Board of Trustees by Governor Taft in '98. And in 2000, I've been on the board for a couple of years. And the president says, we're going to have to fire the football coach. And I need a new football coach at Bowling Green. And he asked me if I would help chair the committee, which I did, partly because I had at the time, still do, an airplane, and he could fly free to do all the interviews. So as the search opened up, I got a call from my good friend, client, and mentor, Coach Lou Holtz. And Coach Holtz has, if you've ever met him or heard him, he's quite a speaker, and he's got kind of a lisp, and he says, Mike, I got your next football coach at Bowling Green. And I said, well, Coach, we're just beginning the search. We're going to have a search firm. We have to have someone who's, we got a long legacy at Bowling Green of success in football. He says, Mike, I'm telling you, I got your next football coach. And I said, well, is he an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator? And he says, he's neither. And I said, well, what is he, Coach? And he said, well, he's a receivers coach. And I said, I don't know. He said, Mike, I got your next football coach. So I said, well, where is he at? And Coach had retired by then, doing ESPN. He says, he's at Notre Dame. He coached for me at Notre Dame. And I said, well, what's his name? And he said, Urban Meyer. And I thought that was a pope or something, And we flew to Notre Dame. We met with Urban Meyer. And he came out in the airplane, and we were just trying to keep it quiet. And we offered him the job. He blew us away in about 2 minutes, and we offered him the job. And he said, I'll have to call you back tomorrow. I got to talk to my wife. We talked to Shelley, but what he did is he went back to Coach Holtz. And he said, Coach, I just got offered the Bowling Green job. And Coach says, well, that's great. That's great. I had it wired with Mike Wilcox and Bob Sebo, and God, that's great, Urban. You're 33 years old. You've never been a head coach. You'll be the youngest coach in Division I. He says, that's terrific. And Urban says, well, Coach, I don't think I'm going to take the job. Now, you're in trouble with Coach Holtz when he goes flatline. And he went flatline on Urban for a bit. Urban tells us about me, and I told about him. And Coach, he went flatline about 20 seconds, and Coach came back to the phone and says, what do you mean you're not going to take the job? And Urban says, well, Coach, I don't think it's a very good job. Now he goes flatline for about 35 seconds. Finally, Urban's on the other line shaking, and he said, what do I do? What do I say? And Coach comes back on and said, Urban, if it was a good job, why the hell you think they'd be calling you? So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Coach Urban Meyer. So we've used that one a lot on each other, and we hired Urban, and he and I became very close, and he turned Bowling Green around, and after about 90 days, he says, what in the hell do you do? And I said, besides being a trustee, and I said, well, I have a financial services business, and well, like what? And I said, well, tell me about your estate plan. And he said, well, what's that? And I said, well, I hope you have a will or a trust. No. I said, tell me about your tax planning. He said, well, Mike, it's $75,000 a year at Notre Dame. I didn't have a lot of taxes to plan, you know. And he said, well, I'm good there. I got H&R Black. And then I said, tell me about your financial planning. And he had come into my office with a box of stocks and bonds that his mother, who just passed away, had given him. He's carrying around stocks and bonds. And I said, give me those. He said, no, you can't have. I said, Coach, we're going to take care of those. We're going to put them into an account because stock certificates can burn. And make a long story short, this was the initial. I had my lawyer and tax people do it all for free. Not doing it for free anymore. And they did it, and then we became very close. And then he said, you know, I can't stay in Bowling Green too long because you can get trapped at the MAC level if you don't win. You're one knee surgery away from your starting quarterback, and all of a sudden you go from 10-2 to 2-10. So he wanted to look. So we started talking to Utah, and I helped him go to Utah. He ran the table his second year at Utah, and the president of Utah moved to become president of the University of Florida. So 2 years later, Florida came knocking, and we went to Florida, and a year later he won his national championship. And, you know, they started calling me. They said, who's your guy? Who's your guy? You know, and he says, call me. So that has morphed into, as Christian said, nearly 400 football coaches, basketball coaches, athletic directors, university presidents, conference commissioners, and broadcasters throughout the country. And it's these are great people that need a lot of help, you know, and so it's really been an honor to serve these people. But the point, ladies and gentlemen, we dared to be different. We dared to stick our feet in that cold water pond. We dared to try to do some things that hadn't been done. We left our comfort zone, and we moved into that athletic market and space, and which was an entire new market for us, and to provide them our services and products. And 16 years later, we dominate the intercollegiate athletics market. Great people to work with, honored to serve them, and it's been a whole new way of life for us and what we do. And very demanding, especially we call this the silly season. When the firings begin, they've begun already. And my wife always knows when I bring a second cell phone charger up to the bedroom, to the the desk next to the bedroom, because it's starting to go from crazy to nuts. So that's kind of how we got going, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of share some slides and some thoughts with you. If you like these afterwards, I'm sure Sarah can get them to you. But you know, and I don't have an awful lot of them, but I've always said, to whom much is given, much is expected. And that goes for everyone in this room. Whatever you do, wherever you work, there's a reason you get up in the morning, and I think that's very important to keep in mind. I've always said that attitude, not aptitude, determines altitude. If it was aptitude in my case, I'd be a grounded eagle. But it's really your attitude, what you do, why you get up in the morning, and how you take care of people, that your customers, your clients, what you do for them. And I think above all, you know, people go around with frowns and scowls, and you know, there's someone once said, if you're happy, tell your face, right? If you're happy, tell your face. You know, if you can go and see a customer and you got a big scowl, well, you might get one back, and also you get no business too. That's even worse. Okay, so I think that's important to keep in mind. You know, I think people can receive smiles through telephones. I think they can tell if you're having a good day or bad day. I think they can tell whether you're faking it in a phone call to them, or you're really concerned about, you know, what they do and what you're trying to deliver to them, not just stuff, okay, not just to make a sale. So keep smiling. And a huge one that I've learned over the years is, anybody know the difference between plagiarism and research? Plagiarism is stealing an idea from a person. That's illegal, okay? But research, ladies and gentlemen, is stealing a lot of ideas from a lot of different people, and that's legal. So, and that's what you're all about today. That's why I like round table seating rather than, you know, row seating, because you're going to get to know your neighbor, you're going to make a new friend or two, you're going to swap some ideas. But I would advise you to do as much research as you can, because you can always come away with a new idea. As my guys hear from me ad nauseum, what's the definition of an objective? It's a dream with a deadline. A dream with a deadline. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it by this date. Without the deadline, okay, it's a dream. Okay, a lot of dreamers out there, Was it Peter Drucker said, miracles are great, but they're so darned unpredictable. You just never know. So you can't be hoping for miracles, and I think if you set objectives and reset objectives and reset objectives, and even when you get knocked down and you don't meet an objective, you double down and you go for it again. And Coach Holtz always says, and he reminds me, because he's as much a mentor as he is a client and dear friend, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse. If you're not getting better every day in life, you're getting worse. And you just can't thrive if you're getting worse. Coach always says the two most important days of your life, number one, the day you were born, and the day you finally realize why you were born, why you were put on this globe, why you are to be a servant leader, why you should get up in the morning, why you should go the extra mile for your family, your customers, your clients, whatever. And I just think that's a calling. Some people are really good at it, really committed to it, and some people just kind of are blasé walking through life, and they missed most of life. I'll never forget the first time I met George Steinbrenner down at his Yankees office in Tampa, and I went in to him on a specific item, and on his desk where you'd normally have the nameplate, you probably know who's in the office if you're going to George Steinbrenner's office, right? But he had this bronze nameplate about this long on his desk, and it said, lead, follow, or get the hell out of the way. And, I think there's some truism to that. But Coach Holtz, 3 questions that he always tells people that your customers are asking your people with relationships, and it's all about relationships, right? You don't have relationships today, I don't care how good your product is, how good your service. People don't buy from people they don't like. People buy from people they like. So smile and get them to like you. But your customers are looking at you. Maybe they're not saying it, but that's what they're thinking. Can I trust you? Are you committed to excellence? Do you care about me? Do you care about me? I am a bug on returning phone calls, an absolute bugaboo, okay? And I just think if you don't promptly return a phone call, I don't care if it's a customer or a friend, whatever, they're going to think one or two things, and both are bad. Number one, you don't care about me, or number two, I'm not important enough because you didn't call back. Call them back at 6 o'clock. I mean, we're all talking on cell phones today, right? Office phone, I don't even know why we have an office phone. Pete, would you take it out, save us some money, So it's all about communication. We live in a society where it's never been easier to communicate. Okay, office phone, cell phone, home phone, fax, not so much. Email, text. I mean, it's never been easier to communicate. But yet, we in an office space live 10 feet from each other, and we send each other emails rather than getting up, going to the source and say, why didn't this happen? Why didn't that happen? We got to get better. And then ultimately, maybe as the 1-minute manager taught us, catch somebody doing something right. Catch somebody doing something right, not wrong. So we got to communicate better. It's all, I always say if in a business environment of selling a service or product, the tie goes to the communicator, not the runner. The tie goes to the best communicator. And I think that's just essential to have. And a great favorite saying, people just don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. Hip shooters, a lot of hip shooters out there. You can't be successful in business without preparing. The game before the game. You think the team just comes out in the field? No, they've worked hard on the game plan all week. They've practiced all week. They had pregame warm-ups, and they're ready to go. Urban, in his playbook, calls it, he's called it for as long as I've known him, a plan to win. A plan to win. Tough plan last week at Iowa, but I'm not saying that to him. Very tough. But that's life. That's parity. Iowa got better, didn't they? Big win over Penn State. Iowa got better. And maybe the Buckeyes took a little late, but don't bet against Durbin. He'll be back. Trust me. You can't create the future by clinging to the past. And this is a real issue I see, and people that are groups that I speak to, they don't want to leave that comfort zone. They want the same old deal. They want the same compensation plan that they had 10 years ago, but margins are going down in products or services. And you can't cling to that past. Embrace change. If you don't, you'll never thrive. You'll only survive. And how boring would that be? Steve Jobs taught us, when you want something new, you got to give up some of the old, right? You got to give up some of the old. Embrace those new ideas. Same thing. Reinventing yourself. We've done it 5-6 times in 40 years, and we're looking at what's the next new market. And we just see in the financial services business very, very high net worth people, not just high net worth people, but people are just, they outgrow their advisors. Their advisors don't grow with them. So they're looking for a different solution. We just, our hard sell is, let us give you a second opinion. Let us take a peek, a 30,000 foot view, give you a second opinion. If you're good, you're good. If we got some advice for you, we'll let you know. Give us a chance. But I think you got to constantly, what's next? What's next in your business? And that's how the pros do it. The convincing message, I've said for years, whatever you do, whatever you're selling, Catholic priests do it the best. Okay, they give, 4 masses a day, and they pass the collection 4 times a day. Same sales pitch, right? But they do pretty well. But, whatever you do, I think you got to keep it simple, make it hurt, and tell it often. Keep it simple, make it hurt, and tell it often. And then you'll see whether you have a prospective customer or not. And, sometimes you got to walk away, if you do that and if you're diligent about that. And people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So if you exhibit that you're caring for people and you're diligent and you're hanging with them, ultimately, sometimes you got to cut some prospective buyers, clients loose because either they don't get it or maybe it's not time. Maybe they're not ready. But make them tell you they're not ready. Can I call you back in 6 months? Can I call you back in a year? And I think you can't fly with eagles if you're hanging out with turkeys. We don't have a water cooler in our office, okay? We don't want a water cooler as a memorial to negativity about how bad things are or the last client you missed out on or whatever. Someone once said, a negative thought is a down payment on an obligation to fail. A negative thought's a down payment on an obligation. So we don't want negative people. We want to be around the eagles, our friends, our neighbors, the people we socialize with. And, I've seen it in our situation that we've outgrown some of our friends, okay? We've outgrown some of the people we started with. It doesn't make us a big deal. It just people grow at different rates, and you have to decide where you want to spend your free time because your free time is your family time. That's your most precious time, okay? Who you want to spend it with. Do you want to spend it with turkeys? Do you want to spend it with negative people? Do you want to be people that are always on a downer? You select that. You decide how you allocate your time. Chuck Noll is one of my favorites, and I think I did this for Pittsburgh, but Coach Noll said, champions are champions, not because they did anything so special, but because they do the ordinary things better than anyone else. How about a follow-up email to thank someone for coming? How about a personal note? Do we still write personal notes? I think they're special. You know why? Because there's not that many of them. How about a personal note on personal letterhead? Thank you for your time and the opportunity for us to show you what we do and how we do it. We hope we can forge a partnership with you. Thank you for coming in. You can't say thank you enough. Competition and everything that you do out there is intense. And it's how you approach it and your mental attitude, your follow-up with a prospective customer, and the touch. I think the touch is so important. What's your touch? Or is it just the touch of any other provider in the business that you're in. But I think ordinary things are really important. The little things make the big things happen. The little things are essential because a lot of people don't do little things. They just don't. They had that meeting from 5 to 6 p.m. last night. You know, they're in a hurry to get home. Okay? Even if it's 2 sentences, I'll tell someone who came to see me, thank you for your time. I know it's important, but thanks for your time and come to us. I'll be in touch tomorrow. It's just a different touch that you have to commit to. You know, and God invented humans with 2 ears and 1 mouth, since you should listen twice as much as you talk. I, at one point, 25, 30 years ago, had a brother-in-law in the business with us, but I had to let him go because he never listened. He never listened to the client. The motor mouth was roaring before the client finished talking. And if you listen, and people know who's a good listener and who's not a good listener. My wife's a great listener. Got to listen to me all the time. But, you know, good listeners are rare today. But in business and in life, I just think it's important that, you know, you show people you care through listening and then helping them in whatever you do. And, you know, it's not easy out there. You know, I understand that. I still have disappointments. I still, you know, I lose a few, not very often, but and the reason I don't lose them very often, because I'm prepared. The game before the game, our research, how we set the plate, how we set the agenda, what our expectations are, what are the client's expectations. So when the client says yes to us, it's not an accident, okay? It's not an accident. It's an expectation. If they don't say yes, I want to know why. Being kind to them, okay? So, you know, when nothing goes right, go left. You know, go left, go right, but come back and stay on track. So in closing, and I'll take some questions afterwards if you'd like, several things. I believe in life there's 3 types of people. Those that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and those that just say at the end of the day, what happened? And at my stage of the game, and I'll never retire, I see a lot of friends or acquaintances retiring, and they're sitting there saying, geez, what happened? Where did the time go? What did I achieve? How did I touch people? You know, what's the good Lord, how's he scoring me on the bell curve or which curve, okay? And what have I done? And they're out of time. And that's the worst feeling that I get when we deal with people when they're out of time. There's no mulligans at that point. They can't make it up. They're out of time. So I hope that you will take some of these thoughts and ideas, put them to work in your own vocation, your practice, whatever. Take them back to your boss. But I think there's so much good going on. I think to take all the politics out of it. The economy's good. Toledo's good, thanks to Randy. Send him that Christmas card. Okay. I mean, it's all good here. And I couldn't be more excited for Toledo. Couldn't be more excited for our team. I couldn't be more excited for the community. And I couldn't be more excited for Epic and what you're all doing, taking the time to come listen to me because you didn't have to. So with that, I hope that you'll be never one of those people that says what happened. And I thank you for your time, and I'll entertain questions. Thank you. Did we plant some questions, Christian, or? Okay, there.
In your convincing message, you said keep it simple, make it hurt, and tell it often. Can you talk about the make it hurt?
I just think you have to be painfully honest with people. You know, whatever you do, whatever you're selling, we don't talk a lot about selling. We're not good salespeople, but I think we're pretty good at helping people buy. We're good at helping people buy because we've done our homework. We've done the game before the game. We've done the metrics. We've done the analytics of that. So we have an idea what they need, what they don't need. So I think it's that consistency and that blatant honesty. And when you get pushback from a potential customer, you've got to be blatantly honest. And even if it comes to the point of saying, you know, I know we've talked about this this is our third meeting, but I think this product is right for you because of this. And, I just can't, I don't know if I'm getting through to you. How can I help make this connect more? Or just ask them, are you not ready to make this commitment at this point? And if they say yes, may I call you back in 90 days, in 6 months? At least you find out. There's nothing worse than walking away from a situation like that and having it open-ended, or you didn't know why. I was telling my guys, at the end of the day, you got to tie a bow around it. Tie a bow around it, tidy it up, make sure you gave it your best effort, okay, whether they come on board or they don't. Most of them do, fortunately, because that's important. But it's more important for them that they come on board with us, not for us, that they do the right things for them, their family, their business. Other question? In the back?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
You talked a lot about preparation, knowing as much as you can know before making a decision. How much does instinct play a part in your success and your decision making?
Okay, great question. I think instincts are developed. You're not born with them. They're developed over time. They're honed by experience. They're honed by getting your teeth kicked in a little bit from time to time and having tough experiences too, or not so pleasant experiences. But I think nothing takes the place of preparation. Okay, you just need to know how to prepare in whatever you do. In the financial services business, it's a corporate client, a personal client, and we just need to know more about them financially, okay, than they do. And then we have to have had the instinct gleaned from prior meetings to try to see what their objectives are, okay? What's keeping them up at night? I had a woman, she was a teacher, and one of our colleagues, Jared Hirschfeld, was working with her, a Culver professor, and I'd never heard this before. A couple of years ago, she said, Mike, and she taught both of our kids at Culver, and she said, Mike, I've memorized every square centimeter of my bedroom ceiling. I said, well, things must be boring in there. And I said, Sue, what do you mean? She says, I stay awake at night looking at that ceiling, having no idea how Bill and I will ever be able to retire. And Jared, within 2 years, had them retired. They're doing great. They're disciplined. And we brought the solutions. We certainly understood the problem. Once she said that, I said, we got a problem, Houston. Okay, now we need some solutions. But it took time and effort to get there. And then I think the more experiences you had, the more reps, right? The number 2 quarterback gets reps. Okay, he better be ready, right? Next man in, Brian Kelly always says. We patented that saying for him. Puts it on T-shirts, makes a lot of money. Okay, next man in. When the number 1 goes down, number 2's got to come up. That's when your instincts improve with experience, with reps. Other question? Yeah.
Do I need a mic or?
No, I got you.
So in your various conversations with leaders in different sectors, whether it be in sports or business and so on, can you speak to some of the values that you've seen are consistently held from leaders in those areas?
Okay, great question. Everybody hear the question? Leadership, values, or the values of leadership and leaders. One common denominator, and I guess I got to say that because I'm surrounded by big guys. One common denominator is athletics. I just see it, okay, in business. A good friend of mine, Jeff Immelt, just retired from GE. Tough times at GE right now, but he played college football at Dartmouth. So I see a lot of leaders that have had, whether it's synchronized swimming or whether it's lacrosse or whatever. So that, and then, because of athletics, the discipline, the motivation, the drive, the conditioning, the practice, the reps. And, back to reps again, good question in the back. In lacrosse, you have to be able to shoot both ways, because when they scout you, if my cannon is from the left, my cannon from many years ago, my antique cannon, now I got to throw something out if I shoot. But, hard shot cannon from the left. They're just going to guard you because they know when I switch over to my right, I got no gun, right? So they say, hey, if he takes it back right, don't worry about him right. Worry about it when he comes back left again. So I think the discipline of, in my years coming up in athletics, staying after practice, because I was never a gifted, talented athlete. It was just I worked harder than anyone else. And that carried over for me in business as I came to Toledo, when I could have had Saturdays and Sundays off working for IBM or Xerox. But I didn't, and I chose. And I tell you, a number of times I thought about calling Procter & Gamble back or IBM back and say maybe I made a mistake. Will you reconsider me? And I love the story about, you all are too young, but in the early NASA space programs, they had there weren't humans in space at that time. They had test monkeys. So they had monkeys up in the capsules, and they had their helmets and their gloves, and they had their suits and everything, and their boots and everything. And two monkeys are up there orbiting around, and one said, this is a heck of a way to make a living. And the second monkey said, yeah, you're right, but it beats the hell out of cancer research. All right? So my point is, it always can be worse. Those times, first 2, 3, 4 years in Toledo, that I was feeling sorry for myself, you had to pick it up. You had to suck it up or quit. Okay? And that's why in my life and with my friends, with my colleagues, I want to be around winners, not whiners. Okay? No whining. Okay? I want to be around people that want to win. Because if we win, our clients win, doing the right things for them. So I think it's just a matter of the discipline and the hard work, and a lot of that emanates from, that could come from a ballet dancer, that discipline of practicing, getting good at, what you get good at, And it's like my golf pro. I was getting a lesson last year, and he says, I got it right now. He says, you got a loft problem. I said, loft? I don't hit the ball very high. He said, no, lack of freaking talent. So I think he was right. So a couple more minutes. Is that any question? One in the middle? Yeah.
From your personal experience, or maybe something that you've learned along the way, can you speak on that day that you realized why you were born? Speak on maybe finding your purpose in life.
Right. I think, when did I realize why I was born, what the purpose was, what the real, of course, that's all work in progress for all of us, if we're getting better every day. But probably 3 years in, when a client of mine passed away. And fortunately, everything was done. All the planning was done, wills, trusts, everything was done, and left 3 little kids behind. And if it wasn't for us, she would have had going back to work, major problems. But to this day, those are the best Christmas cards I get from her and the kids. And it really gave me a sense of purpose that, I probably could have done a lot of things, but I wasn't excited about Procter & Gamble and soaking or stocking soap on grocery stores or selling Selectric typewriters. Nobody knows what that is at the time. But I think the sense of purpose of what you do and why you do it that's just the juice. Pete and I got a note from a pretty well-known football commissioner that lost his wife just about a year ago, and he was sending in his annual fee. That's good when people send checks, right? Checks are good, right? And he just said, Peter, Mike, and team, can't thank you enough for what you've done over the last year, but without your help, I'm not sure I would have made it. And I mean, that's the juice, you can look at money in a lot of different ways. In the beginning, when I started in the beginning, someone said money is not important. and then he said, but a lack of it is. So I guess part of that evolution, as opposed to revolution, is going through some tough times, starting something new, evolving, and doing good things. And to this day, the notes that I get from clients that now we're working with their children and helping their businesses, and these coaches are nuts because they got no time. You know, they're just crazy to work with, but that's what we do. No one else is doing it for them. So that satisfaction, that's the mental juice. That's what refreshes me, because a lot of my friends have, they're counting down the days to retirement, and I'm not. I'm counting on how we can get better, how we can help more people. That's really the yardstick in my mind. One over here.
So you talk a lot about athletics. I believe that in athletics, one of the most challenging things is getting your team or your coach to believe in you and believe in your system or believe in what you're trying to sell. So can you talk about what you do for whether it's your employees or your clients to
Sure.
have them believe in you or have that faith in you and believe in what you're selling?
That's a great question. I can give you a story a week old. Our team, Christian and Pete and others, went over to Notre Dame last week because Wake Forest was coming in to play Notre Dame, and they flew in on Friday. They do a walkthrough in the stadium. We represent Dave Clausen, who was our coach at Bowling Green. We represent Nathan Hatch, the president of Wake Forest University, and the athletic director. And so we watched the walk-in, and we see Coach Clausen, and we're walking off the field, and I go back 5 years. Christian said it was a 5-year interview. Clausen called me and he says, I'd like you to, I got a great kid here, Christian Piazza, and he said, I'd like you to give him an internship. And I said, well, Coach, we don't do internships. We are so busy just trying to get our stuff done. Plus confidentiality, I don't even know Christian Piazza. Okay, if somebody's looking at a file, somebody's tax return, I get sued for that. So Clausen came back and asked again, and I said no. And then the third time, I kind of forgot about this. I didn't say no. I said hell no. Okay. So as we're walking off the field at Notre Dame Stadium last week, and Dave Clausen and Ron Wellman, the athletic director, he said to the athletic director, he said, Ron, has Mike ever yelled at you? And Ron said, no, Mike's never raised his voice at me. He says, boy, he gave me hell when I asked him about Christian for the third time. And we got a laugh out of that. But, the experience of working with a team, watching people grow, and having great expectations. I say at our place, we run the spread financial offense, because if you're a plotter, even if you're a lineman, Pete came in as a quarterback, Christian was a tackle, but even if you got to play fast. You got to play fast. We're not here to tell stories. We got lots to do, and not a lot of time to do it. So it's really a pleasure, and Alex Levy, one of our other colleagues, is here somewhere. It's to watch these young people grow and do it the right way. And in my mind, there's only the right way. Okay? It's not 90% of the right way. It's not 99% of the right way. It's the right way, or don't do it. That's just how adamant I am about that. And I think that has served us well. And as our older people and older advisors embrace the younger ones, bring them in, they want them to be successful. And it's fun to see people win, because if we win, the client wins. One more? Yep.
Many of us are young, we're still like trying to discover what we want. A mentor is kind of a big thing. Can you tell us how to find a mentor and kind of get them to really engage with us?
That's a great question about mentoring. I was so blessed to have so many mentors as coaches. I never really had a father. And so my early mentors in high school, junior high and high school, were other coaches and other fathers. And I've taken that full circle with my involvement at Culver Academies, where both our kids went and graduated, and they had kids from all over the world that their parents never came because they couldn't, or it was too far away. So that kind of went on into high school, and then college. My coaches continued to be mentors, and when I got in business, I found some mentors. Now, I will say this, and that's a great question. Mentors just don't drop into your lap. There's not a mentor bucket and a ladle next to it that you can have some mentor juice, okay? So you really got to go out and find a role model and get to know that person. And one of my great mentors was Willard Webb, and the Webb family owned Ohio Citizens, and then it went from, there was one before that, then it was Ohio Citizens, then it was National City, and now it's PNC. And he got to become a mentor. He's 25 years older than me, and we socialized with him. And especially, all of the mentors are older than the mentees normally, right? That's kind of how it works, okay? But mentors love to help younger mentees, okay? They want to see younger people succeed, okay? And I'll never, when I opened the doors in 1982, I begged, borrowed, stole I said to the landlord I leased the space from, he said, I want to see your financial statement. And I said, see that cocktail napkin, that 4x4 cocktail napkin? I can write it on that for you, okay? I'll have plenty of room left in the margins, okay? But Bill Webb, who was the CEO of Ohio Citizens, was great to me, and a number of his guys, and I got to know them a little bit. They kind of took me under their wing. You can't make them do that, but if you want to be in that game, if you want a mentor, you got to search them out. And there's the most powerful sentence in the world, I think, is, I need your help. I really need your help. I'm new in the business. I'm just getting started. Would you help mentor me? What could you share with me? And I'll never forget, I begged, borrowed, stole, and was working with another bank in town when I opened the doors on a string. And Bill Webb, the first day, we didn't have we had a receptionist desk, but we couldn't afford a receptionist. So we had a buzzer on the front door, so the other assistants would run for the front door, and it made them look like they're just coming back from break to their desk, right? Where no one sat at that desk ever, I think. And I'm selling that desk. But Bill Webb walked in, I've told this story thousands of times, and he looked around, and I didn't have carpet on the floors yet. It was cracked concrete. It was an old bank over across from Ottawa Hills Memorial Park. And Bill Webb looked at the floor, and there's no carpet. And in my office, which was a nice office, there was a card table with 4 chairs. He was highly underwhelmed, okay, believe me. And he said, young man, he says, I've watched you and Jan in this community for the last 5 years. I've watched the people lives you've touched. I've watched what you've done, and now you're taking this leap. He said, obviously, you need a new bank. And I said, yes, Mr. Webb, I do need a new bank. And he said to me, he says, young man, that was a long time ago. He said, young man, I'll give you whatever you need, whatever you want. Any bankers in here? Not quite the same today, right, Melissa? Right? Not quite the same, but I'll give you whatever you need, whatever you want, as long as we understand 2 things. And here comes the question. He says, number 1, I never have to be the first to hear any good news. But number 2, I better not be the last to hear any bad news. And I think that's not just in banking, that's the way you should live your life. Glenn Heiner, my dear friend, former chairman of Owens Corning, he always says, bad news travels slow upstream. Bad news travels slow upstream. Well, unless you know about bad news, you can't deal with bad news. We're always going to get news that we don't like, but you can't sweep it under the rug. But that's something Mr. Webb, 40-some years later, really resonated with me. And mentors have been the key to my success, and mentors for my wife. Okay, wives of mentors, and I think my wife is a bit of a mentor to Pete's wife or Jared's or whatever. So I think, you got to pass it on, if you're fortunate, and, as we started this, much is expected. So I think I've come to the end of my rope. Sarah's blinking at me over there, but thank you for having me. I wish you all the best, and go Epic. Thank you.